The Second Battle of Bull Run, also known as the Second Battle of Manassas, was fought from August 28th to August 30th, 1862, and marked a significant turning point in the American Civil War. This battle took place in Prince William County, Virginia, and was primarily fought between the Confederate Army, commanded by General Robert E. Lee, and the Union Army of Virginia, led by Major General John Pope. Following the defeat of the Union at the First Battle of Bull Run in July 1861, the Confederacy gained a significant psychological advantage, while the Union faced considerable organizational challenges. In an effort to restore morale and order, the Union Army underwent a major reorganization in the spring of 1862, leading to the formation of the Army of Virginia, under the command of General John Pope. General Pope was appointed with the hope of bringing a new perspective to the conflict. He was known for his aggressive command style and direct attack strategies. Pope's strategy focused on engaging and defeating General Robert E. Lee's forces in Northern Virginia, with the ultimate aim of alleviating pressure on Washington, D.C. He famously declared that he would act and not just stand by, reflecting a strong determination to lead the Northern Army back to a position of initiative. However, Pope's assertiveness was not well received by his fellow Union commanders. General George B. McClellan, who commanded the Army of the Potomac, emerged as one of Pope's primary rivals for control over military strategy in the area. McClellan was characterized by a cautious command style and was often hesitant in his decision-making, making him a stark contrast to Pope. Tensions escalated between Pope and McClellan as both held differing views on how to approach the war. Pope frequently criticized McClellan for his sluggishness and indecisiveness, while McClellan viewed Pope as inexperienced and incapable of effectively organizing a military campaign. Their public disagreements and mutual criticisms not only deepened divisions within the Army, but also created doubts among senior commanders and soldiers about the leadership abilities of both generals. These internal tensions significantly weakened the Union Army's ability to coordinate during the preparation for battle. The competitive and conflicting nature of the two generals not only dampened the morale of the troops, but also hindered effective planning and execution of military operations, as Pope and McClellan struggled to achieve consensus. This led to inconsistent decision-making in military strategy and heightened feelings of insecurity within the ranks of the Northern Army. Ultimately, these internal conflicts contributed to the Union Army's inability to adequately prepare for the Second Battle of Bull Run, leaving them at a disadvantage against a well-trained Confederate force led by one of the war's most skilled generals, Robert E. Lee. The atmosphere of doubt and instability within the Northern Army created a complex situation that resulted in yet another defeat in their struggle against the Confederacy. In late August 1862, as the Union Army advanced toward Confederate positions, General Robert E. Lee seized the initiative, launching a bold offensive to destabilize his enemy. Recognizing the potential to disrupt Union operations, Lee decided to divide his forces, a risky but calculated move. He dispatched General Thomas Stonewall Jackson with a portion of the Army to seize the Union Supply Depot at Manassas Junction, while Lee himself prepared to confront General Pope's main force head-on. Jackson's mission was critical. The Union Supply Depot at Manassas Junction was a vital hub, housing vast quantities of food, ammunition, and other essential resources. By capturing this depot, Jackson aimed to cripple the Union's logistical support and create chaos within their ranks. Jackson's march was swift and decisive. Using his intimate knowledge of the terrain, he maneuvered his forces through Northern Virginia, avoiding direct confrontation with Union forces along the way. On August 26th, Jackson's troops launched a surprise attack on Manassas Junction, catching the Union completely off guard. The Confederate soldiers quickly overran the poorly defended depot, capturing a massive cache of supplies. Rather than immediately using the supplies for his own troops, Jackson chose to burn much of it, ensuring that the Union Army would be left without crucial resources. The destruction of the Union supplies at Manassas Junction was a devastating blow. Not only did it cut off vital provisions for the Union Army, but it also threw General Pope's command into disarray. Pope, who had already been facing difficulties coordinating his forces, now found himself in an increasingly precarious situation. His army was not only deprived of food and ammunition, but also faced a growing sense of unease as communication lines were severed and supplies dwindled. By the time Pope realized the full extent of the crisis, it was too late to effectively regroup. Jackson, ever the master of deception, had quickly withdrawn from Manassas Junction and repositioned his troops in a defensive posture, preparing for the next phase of Lee's larger strategy. The Union Army, demoralized and disorganized, was left scrambling to react, giving the Confederates the upper hand as they prepared for the larger battle to come. This strategic maneuver by Jackson set the stage for the Confederate victory at the Second Battle of Bull Run, dealing a critical blow to the Union's campaign in Virginia. On August 28, 1862, the Second Battle of Bull Run began with initial skirmishes between the Union and Confederate forces. These clashes marked the beginning of a critical engagement that would see intense fighting over the next several days. On August 29th, General Pope, eager to regain the initiative, launched a series of attacks against General Stonewall Jackson's forces. Jackson carefully positioned his troops, using natural terrain features such as hills, forests, and railroads to create a solid defense. Pope believed he had Jackson cornered, but he underestimated the strength of the Confederate position. As the Union forces attacked throughout the day, they encountered fierce resistance. Jackson's soldiers, using their carefully prepared defenses, repelled many Union attacks, inflicting heavy casualty. One of the main challenges for Pope's army on August 29th was the lack of coordination in their attacks. Despite their numerical advantage, the Union forces struggled to launch cohesive assaults. Communication problems between Pope and his commanders, combined with the challenging terrain, resulted in disjointed and poorly timed efforts. Instead of using their superior numbers to overwhelm the Confederate defenses, Union troops attacked in smaller, fragmented waves. This lack of synchronization allowed Jackson's men to fend off each assault effectively, neutralizing the Union's advantage in manpower. Meanwhile, General Robert E. Lee was closely monitoring the situation, realizing that Jackson's forces were holding their own against Pope's repeated attacks. Lee decided to strike back. On August 30th, he ordered General James Longstreet, who had just arrived with reinforcements, to launch a major counterattack against the Union left flank. Longstreet's forces, consisting of nearly 30,000 men, executed a devastating assault on the Union left. This surprise attack took Pope's army off guard. Stonewall Jackson, who had been defending throughout the previous day, now took the opportunity to go on the offensive as well. His troops surged forward, striking the Union's right flank, while Longstreet hammered the left. The combined assault from both Confederate wings created confusion and panic within Pope's army. Jackson's attack on the Union left was especially effective. His forces, seasoned by previous battles and well-coordinated, exploited weaknesses in the Union lines, striking with precision and speed. Union troops, already fatigued from the relentless fighting of the previous day, found themselves overwhelmed by Jackson's aggressive maneuvers. As the Confederate forces advanced, many Union units began to falter, and the line started to collapse under the pressure. By the afternoon of August 30th, the Union Army was in full retreat. General Pope's Union forces, unable to regroup or mount an effective defense against the relentless Confederate assault, were driven back in complete disarray. General Stonewall Jackson's Confederate troops pressed their advantage, causing panic and confusion to spread throughout the Union ranks. What had started as an organized Union offensive had turned into a chaotic rout, with Northern soldiers abandoning their positions, weapons, and equipment in their desperate flight from the battlefield. General Robert E. Lee's brilliant coordination of Longstreet's massive counterattack, combined with Jackson's flanking maneuver, proved decisive in securing the Southern victory. Realizing the situation was dire, Pope ordered a retreat. However, The withdrawal quickly devolved into chaos as Union soldiers, demoralized by the unexpected ferocity of the Confederate onslaught, fled in disarray. The retreat was further exacerbated by a lack of organization, and many Union soldiers left their weapons and equipment behind. The Second Battle of Bull Run concluded with a resounding victory for the Confederacy. The Union Army suffered approximately 14,000 casualties, while the Confederate forces incurred around 8,000. This decisive defeat not only cemented General Robert E. Lee's reputation as a brilliant military strategist, but also significantly boosted morale across the Southern states. In the aftermath of the battle, Union General John Pope was relieved of his command, and the Army of Virginia was merged into the larger Army of the Potomac. Lee's victory at Bull Run opened the door for his bold invasion of Northern Territory, which led to the Maryland Campaign and ultimately the Battle of Antietam just a few weeks later. The Second Battle of Bull Run underscored important lessons for both sides. The Union Army's failure to effectively coordinate its forces, compounded by General Pope's inability to unify his command, highlighted the Union's need for improved leadership and better strategy. For the Confederacy, the battle demonstrated the value of aggressive, offensive tactics, as well as the importance of rapid troop movement and effective communication. This battle marked a pivotal moment in the Civil War, shifting momentum strongly in favor of the South. It showcased the leadership skills of General Lee and the resilience of Confederate soldiers, while revealing significant weaknesses in the Union's command structure. The Second Battle of Bull Run had lasting effects on the course of the war, influencing future strategies and shaping the morale of both Northern and Southern forces as they continued their struggle for control of the nation.